You found the perfect apartment. The floor plans look flawless. The brochure promises a luxury lifestyle. And you've just handed over the booking amount. It feels like a done deal. But right after that payment clears, a massive, dense builder-buyer agreement is slapped down on the desk in front of you. And you're told it's standard, non-negotiable, just sign here. Read the fine print and the cracks appear. The brochure promised a lush clubhouse and a strict move-in date. The contract, however, says the layout is subject to approvals, and possession happens whenever the developer receives their certificates. You're trapped in a hard choice. Push back on these terms, and the developer threatens to cancel your booking and forfeit your deposit. Sign it, and you're bound by their rules. The agreement functions as a risk allocation manual, dictating exactly who pays the price when a multi-year construction project runs into trouble. For years, buyers had zero leverage. You handed over your life savings for an exposed concrete shell, armed with nothing but a one-sided standard form contract drafted entirely by the builder's legal team. That changed with the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act, or RERA. This law forced developers to register projects, disclose timelines, and standardize the terms of sale. Add in the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, and the legal landscape shifted. Courts began ruling that if a contract's terms are heavily skewed against the consumer, the contract can be challenged as unfair. These regulations mean a signature is no longer a final surrender. If an agreement is one-sided or violates RERA standards, the law provides specific tools to contest those clauses in court. Your first line of defense is RERA Section 13. Think of it as the 10% rule. A builder is prohibited from taking more than 10% of the cost before registering an agreement for sale. Pay more upfront without it, and your leverage evaporates. If the project stalls, you have no registered legal standing to force a refund. Once the contract is in front of you, check the possession clause. Developers often use vague language like possession from start of construction. You need a hard, ascertainable calendar date. Without a fixed date, a 3-year delay means you are stuck paying your current rent and your new mortgage simultaneously, with no clear timeline to demand compensation for the delay. Holding your payments at 10% and demanding a specific handover date are strict boundaries. Enforcing them early prevents years of financial bleed. Next, look deep into the payment schedules for penalty clauses. This graph breaks down the mathematical trap. If you're late, a steep red line shows the 24% compounded interest you owe. If the builder delays, they owe you flat, nominal compensation. This removes financial pressure for them to deliver while your debt compounds. Then comes the handover sting. Watch out for actual cost and area change clauses. These clauses allow the builder to demand uncapped, undefined cash for utility hookups, club memberships, or sudden area adjustments right as you're waiting for the keys. They use these tactics to market an artificially low base price today, creating the risk of a significant cash deficit on moving day. Eventually, construction finishes, and control hands over to a homeowners association, or RWA. But a strange governance failure often happens. Newly elected committees, thinking they are following the rules, end up enforcing the builder's original predatory clauses against their own neighbors. You'll see associations blocking residents from common areas or demanding heavy transfer charges when an owner tries to sell, all from a 10-year-old contract. An HOA's legal and fiduciary duty is to protect the collective interests of the owners. It is not supposed to act as the developer's post-possession debt collector. Enforcing these outdated terms actively alienates residents and directly breaches the committee's mandate to defend the community's proprietary rights. If you're watching this and you've already signed a one-sided contract, you might feel trapped. You aren't. Take the Supreme Court precedent in Pioneer Urban Land versus Govindon Raghavan. The court ruled decisively. Standard form contracts that are wholly one-sided and oppressive are legally considered unfair trade practices. They cannot automatically bind a flat purchaser. This gives you a clear dual strategy. You can approach RERA to resolve project delays and force refunds. At the same time, the Consumer Commission can strike down unfair contracts and address deficiency in service. A private contract clause cannot overwrite statutory law. A bad signature on a predatory contract is not a life sentence. If you haven't signed yet, here is your immediate action plan. Download the builder's official pro forma agreement straight from your state's RERA portal. Lay it next to the physical contract they asked you to sign, go line by line, and look for the mismatch. If you sit on an HOA committee, formally audit your bylaws today. Scrub out any leftover rules that benefit the builder at the expense of your neighbors. Pushing back on a massive legal document is uncomfortable, but accepting that transactional friction right now is the only way to cap your financial exposure down the line. Treat the builder-buyer agreement as the absolute boundary of your risk. Read every page, challenge the discrepancies, and never pay for a developer's mistakes.